I'm honored this evening to have my father-in-law here, Reverend Donald R. Veltman, to lead us in the invocation. I guess an applause. Pastors don't usually get applause when they pray, but please come forward and please rise for the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance after.
Let us pray. We approach you, O God, invoking your name and presence this evening to install the newly elected mayor and members of Troy City Council into their respective offices of government. May the members of council be ever mindful that the government of your people is a sacred trust that commits them to affirm the worth and value of every individual, every citizen, in spite of apparent differences of race, religion, wealth, social status, power, influence, or whatever so readily divides us into groups of us and them. We pray that in the sacred trust of governance, the members of this council may be delivered from selfish considerations, choosing to act with morality that transcends legality and manifests itself in love and mercy, justice and righteousness. Instill within each elected official a broader vision of the needs of all mankind, especially the citizens of this city, who have entrusted to them their care and well-being. In the spiritual wisdom manifest centuries ago, may it be said of each member here and each citizen that we seek to do good, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with you, our God, for in so doing we can be a blessing to others. All these things we ask in your name, the one before whom each of us is accountable, the one before whom all nations and peoples shall bow, the only God of heaven and earth, who invites us to act with grace and mercy in all of life. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up on our agenda are the oaths of office. We have 2 council members being sworn in this evening and the mayor. We will start with Council Member Teresa Brooks.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Michigan, the Charter of the City of Troy, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of City Council Member and for the City of Troy, County of Oakland, State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability, so help me God. I do.
Councilmember-elect Mark Gunn.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Michigan, the Charter of the City of Troy, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of City Council Member in and for the City of Troy, County of Oakland, State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability, so help me God. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Michigan, the Charter of the City of Troy, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Mayor in and for the City of Troy, County of Oakland, State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
We're going to take about 10 minutes for some pictures, so we'll be in recess even though we haven't called to order yet. So picture time.
You asked me to bring you up.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Let's get going. That's it. Yes, we do. Hello, Ray.
Gavel works. Okay. All right, I will call to order the November 20th, 2023 Troy City Council meeting and ask for the roll call for Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Brooks?
Here.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Krenga?
Here.
Councilmember Gunn?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Here.
All present this evening. There are no certificates of recognition and special presentations, no carryover items, so we move on to public hearings. We have two this evening. E1 is a public hearing, revised preliminary site plan and amendment to conditional rezoning agreement, JPLN 2023-0018, proposed homestead site condominium east side of Livernois, north of Big Beaver, PIN 88-20-22-301-007-008 and 009, Section 22, zoned RT, one family resident, attached residential zoning district. That'll be introduced by Brent Savedon, our Community Development Director. Good evening, Brent.
Good evening, Mayor Baker, City Council, and congratulations, new Councilmember Gunn.
Thank you.
Just waiting for the PowerPoint to show up.
We are too, Brent.
Yeah. So how's everyone doing?
Good.
Here we go.
That's all it took.
There we go. Thank you, Dave. We've got a new member, and we've got some members who don't have a lot of experience with this type of application, conditional rezonings. So I added a couple of slides just as a reminder of what a conditional rezoning is. A conditional rezoning is a zoning district map amendment, otherwise known as a rezoning, that involves the applicant voluntarily offering conditions of approval to protect adjacent properties from the potential impacts of the rezoning. It's very important to stress that these are voluntarily offered. That's state law as well as in our zoning ordinance. But they're voluntary. Some of the conditions that could be voluntarily offered include use, restricting height, restricting density, or restricting hours of operation. Why would an applicant do that? Predictability. When the Zoning Enabling Act was changed about 15 years ago to allow for conditional rezonings, prior to that, they were illegal. And when an applicant came in for a rezoning, they would rezone to the district they wanted to rezone to, and any of the potential uses in that district would be permissible under the zoning ordinance. So we'd have neighbors come to the meeting and saying, what's it going to be? Well, it's going to be whatever the zoning district allows. Well, the neighbors would tell us, well, I can live with A, B, or C, but I can't live with D, E, or F. Or I can live with use A as long as the hours of operation are limited, or the height is limited, or what have you, whatever the example is. So this was a tool to allow for predictability, to allow for the greater chance for a win-win. So the developer would get the use that he or she wanted, but the use would not negatively impact the neighbors. So that's the reason behind the conditional rezoning. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So for this site, some background, it's 9.5 acres. It's comprised of 3 parcels. They're all long and narrow in front on Livernois, basically across the street from the community center and a little bit north. This property was conditionally rezoned from R1E single-family residential to RT one-family attached on September 19th, 2022. So it's already been rezoned, and the applicant's not proposing to rezone it to RT because it was rezoned to RT about a year ago. What the applicant is seeking is amending the conditional rezoning agreement and the preliminary site plan. So the drawing on top is an illustration of what was approved in 2022. Notice it was 30 units attached in 6 buildings, and these were to be for rent units. What the applicant is proposing is to reduce the number of units from 30 down to 14, which is less than half the number of units. They would all be in detached single-family units, and they would be a for-sale product. So the density of this development is less than half of what was approved a year ago. When this was before City Council a year ago, we talked about wetlands and floodplains. There's a significant amount of floodplain on this property. It's about the 75% of the property, the easternmost property is floodplain, which means they're going to have to do some cutting and some filling on the property. They're going to have to work with Eagle, the state of Michigan, and the city engineering office to get that done. There's also a significant number of trees on the site. We require applicants to undertake tree surveys. There was a little over 800 trees surveyed. They're saving more than half the trees, saving 407 trees. Of those 800 trees, 57 are considered quality trees, which means they're of a certain species and a certain size, and they're preserving 8 of those trees. But the applicant proposes a landscape plan where they're planting 151 new trees. These are going to be quality trees under our landscape ordinance, spruce and quality trees like that. And 60 of those trees are going to be planted along the southern property line, because just to the south here is single-family residential. So they're going to leave. There's a drain here. The trees and the plants that are on the south side of the drain are going to be left alone, and they're going to plant trees on the north side of the drain. So there'll be significantly more plants to serve as a buffer when this is developed. So the site plan, as I indicated, 14 units, represents a density of about 1.5 units per acre. They're proposing a private road. You see the detention basin just to the east of the units, and a community park with some preserved wetlands in the corner here, in the northeast corner. They'll leave those alone. The community park's going to have landscaping, benches, trails, butterfly gardens, and a 12-foot easement here, which the property to the north is privately owned, but north of that is our trailway. It's city property with a trailway on it. So the applicant's providing an easement. So in the future, if there's an easement provided to the city on the property to the north, this will be able to connect to the trailway, thereby extending it, and basically extending it from where it is now through the property all the way out to Livernois. So in terms of conditions of approval that are, again, voluntarily offered, the site plan is a condition of approval. They're going to conform with the site plan. They're also going to conform with all requirements of the RT district, which includes a maximum height of 2.5 stories or 30 feet, which is the same height that's permitted in the single-family residential neighborhood to the south. So these aren't going to be tall units that look down on the neighbors. They're going to look directly across through those trees and the plant material that I mentioned. And again, only 14 homes. Speaking of homes, they are to be a modern farmhouse style, about 1,900 square feet, with the option for a second floor, third bedroom and bath of about 400 square feet. So still a relatively small house. Quality materials: brick, stone, composite siding, dimensional shingles, metal roofs, not for the main roof structure, but over the like the canopies over windows and whatnot, and black windows. Pretty attractive homes. These are the standards of approval for conditional rezonings. I'm not going to read these. Probably the most important one that planning commissions and the planning commission and city council worries about, and rightfully so, is compatibility with adjacent uses of land. And again, this proposal is less than half of what was approved about a year ago. The planning commission held a public hearing on this item September 12th, 2023. They recommended approval with a vote of 8-1. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I can answer any questions you may have. Also, the applicants here, they've got a brief PowerPoint they'd like to present.
Okay, do you want to do questions now on your presentation before we do that?
We can.
Or, fine. Questions for Brent? If there are any. Councilmember Chamberlain-Crago.
Thank you, Mayor. This is more of a comparison question. So the height, 2.5 stories, 30 feet, is that less than the previous model?
Same height.
Same height. Any change in terms of the thickness of that buffering on the southern property line? Is it the same? You mentioned more trees. Is that more than what was proposed?
I believe it's comparable, but their landscape architect, Jim Epic, is here and he can confirm.
Okay. And is there still the same screening on Livernois as before? Is that the
I think
same
it's comparable, yes. There's a planting bed that's proposed.
Councilmember Gunn.
What was the reason, and I'm glad you did, but what was the reason for going from the other approval versus 14 homes?
I primed the pump with Mr. Epping, and he's going to explain. He'll answer your question.
All right.
Additional questions? Obviously, the fire safety's been vetted, that T-turn's plenty of room for a fire truck to be in and
Yes.
everything, right? And the flood issues that we dealt with the residents before, same concerns, right?
Same concerns, long story short, that the applicant is aware of, I'm not a civil engineer, but the applicant's aware of the flooding issues associated with the amount of rain we've been having. And in a non-engineering way, I'll explain that this will have, the improvements to the site will have the effect of reducing the flooding issues on those properties to the south.
Great. Any other questions for Brian? Councilmember Brooks.
Will all of these be two-level homes, or will there be any ranch-style homes?
I believe they're going to look like that, but some of them are going to add the living space, like mezzanine-type living space, but they're all going to look like those examples on the screen.
All right, should we have Mr. Epping come forward then?
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Jim Epping. I'm a land planner in Clarkston, Michigan. I'm representing tonight Joe Miniacci of Mondrian Development Properties. And we are, in fact, the exact same development team that was here last September for approval. And I was going to start off really with answering your question. Why are we coming and saying, hey, can we cut our density in half? We're very, very committed to this project. We came in with the original intent of creating a missing middle type project, and by that it's really based on size of homes. We are always in that 1,900 to about a 2,300 square foot home. At that point, we had proposed single level living, but on two different stories, so condominiums on the first floor and condominiums on the second floor. What we did since we received the approval last year was not only went into our engineering, only worked very closely with Eagle, we now have all those FEMA permits in place and all the FEMA maps have been rewritten, but we dug in and we really started to work with our marketing department and working with primarily the residents of Troy who are leaving their larger single family homes and coming to smaller condominiums. And we got some things right, and we got some things a little different that we want to make some adjustments. Four things became very important in our market study to the homeowners who were looking to live here that our old product just didn't satisfy 100%. A, they wanted storage. Our previous product did not have basements. Even though we're leaving our big homes, we're not getting rid of all of our stuff. And so all of these homes now have full basements. Our market told us that these people very clearly wanted a two-car garage. Our previous product had a one-car garage. And so now all of our homes have two-car garage as well as two parking spots on the driveway. They wanted what we thought was single level living really meant lower level living. And so these are all ranch homes. The architecture, as Mr. Senevan pointed out, all will look the same. They're all ranch homes, 2 bedrooms, master, and a second bedroom on the first floor with kitchen and den and everything. And each has an option to have a second floor bonus room, essentially a third bedroom if grandkids were going to stay or something like this, or a home office. So the architecture, the outside won't change. Everything is on the lower level. But if they wanted that extra, just under 300 square foot bonus room on the second floor, that would be an internal option. And so that was it. And then the last thing that we came to find out is people want a condominium. They want, and by condominium, I'm saying that all landscaping, all lawn cutting, all snow plowing, that's all taken care of, but they still wanted their own 4 walls. Again, we had 6 buildings with 30 units, so we had 5 and 6 homes per building. And people said that's great, but at this point, they really wanted that 4 walls, a single family home as it were. And so for those reasons, mathematically, we sure wish we could get closer to the 30, but just with setbacks and we're still maintaining the 55% open space, the trail systems, the public sidewalks, all that is important, and everything is still in there. The landscaping, same beautiful landscape across the frontage, same landscape along that southern property. There's an existing drain, and all that vegetation will stay, and then we're adding about 60 trees in addition to that. So essentially, it's just as beautiful as the project. It's just a little bit lighter, not quite as dense, about 50% as dense, and we think really a perfect fit for the Troy market. So we appreciate your consideration. All the other conditions in terms of the public use and ongoing coordination with the expansion of the trails, of course, are still part of our condition. We're just asking for that modification to change the building type and the density. Thank you.
All right, any questions for the presenter? Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig.
Mr. Epic, just to get confirmation, so the buffering on the southern property line as well as the screening on Livernois, that's the same as the previous project?
Yes, it is. Exactly the same.
Any other questions? All right, well, I will open this public hearing. I don't see that anybody has signed up to speak on this public hearing. Doesn't prohibit anyone from speaking now, so I'll give an option if anyone would like to speak on E1, this public hearing. I don't think that's why you're all here. Right, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask if someone would like to move a resolution for discussion. Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move E1, public hearing, revised preliminary site plan and amendment to conditional rezoning agreement, JPLN 2023-0018, proposed homestead site condominium, east side of Livernois, north of Big Beaver, PIN 88-20-202-301-007-008 and -009. Section 22, zoned RT, one family attached residential zoning district, as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve E1, public hearing, revised preliminary site plan, and amendment to conditional rezoning agreement, JPLN 2023-0018, proposed homestead site condominium, east side of Livernois, north of Big Beaver, PIN 88-20-22-301-007, 008, and 009. Section 22, zoned RT, one family attached residential zoning district, as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? Councilmember Hamilton.
I think in my 6 years on council, this is the first time an applicant has asked to reduce the density with the rezoning. So this is a pretty straightforward one that I'll support. I've supported the one last year, and this is pretty obvious. So.
Additional discussion, Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. Also, I supported this one last time. I did have a number of questions, and one was around the market for what was proposed in the first version. And I do want to state for the record is that, Mr. Epic, I'd ask questions about research, and you sent me that, and I just want to state that for the record. I really appreciate your follow-up and your care for that project. But what I see before me, and with all that research, I feel like this actually more addresses the missing middle. You have more of an actual ranch style in what's being proposed. You've done the FEMA Eagle work on those things we had concern. You still have a beautiful community park. So for all these reasons, I'm happy to support this project.
Thank you. I just thought I'd address anybody.
Oh, just in case, sure. All right. Additional comments? Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
It is nice to see the missing middle product. That's obvious to us. Sometimes I think developers have creative ideas that they're trying to bring. You're trying to make a business case. You're trying for density. That's what you're working for. We did have concerns, but you were saying you would test it in the marketplace, and sometimes residents watch the process and think, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But this is proof that that does happen. And, I'm of a certain age. And we, living in Troy, we have a home that is, when we bought it, we knew we could age in place. With the first floor bedroom, it's very similar. The type of home I'm in is similar to what you're proposing. And I can just attest to the fact that friends that are looking to stay in Troy, they often say to us, boy, your house is what we want.
Right.
Your house is what we want, and those aren't available. So to those that watch and wish that we could just no offense, not have any development on any of these lands that we have. Private property owners have rights, and we have our zoning, and we're working hard to make sure that what we do build in these places as we work with developers is what we need in the community. This is it.
I appreciate it.
Truly, I was a little enamored with what you proposed last year, and I wondered if it would fly. But this does fit, it's anecdotal, qualitative representation data, essentially, but I can attest to the fact that people are so hungry for this type of product in our community. So thank you for making that revision and still retaining everything we had no question or quibble with at all about last year. And I hope those that watch development go on in Troy, we are nearly built out. It's painful for residents to see us on those last pieces. There isn't an option to stop it. There is an option to get it as right as possible and a win-win. Thank you for bringing a win-win to us.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'd like to take the credit, but Joe and the Mondrian team obviously is a tremendous corporation and commitment to Troy, and so we appreciate the opportunity to do so much here.
Additional discussion? I'll just add a couple quick things. Just for those who are here tonight or maybe watching for the first time tonight, we talked about this project a lot over a year ago, went through a lot of the issues relating to flooding, compatibility in neighborhood, a lot of those things. I don't want anyone to think that it looks like we're just kind of moving through this new development project. It was very well vetted in September of '22, and but like everyone said, to go from 30 rental units down to 14 ownership units in an area that I think, in a type of housing that's really needed, I think is fantastic. So thank you. I, of course, will be supporting it, and it sounds like most are. So with that,
Thank you for your
I'll ask for the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, and congratulations again.
Thank you. Next up is E2. It's another public hearing, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG 2024 funds, and that'll be introduced by Cindy Stewart, our Community Affairs Director.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'm here once again for our annual approval of the CDBG 24 funds. We are proposing two projects, street improvement, the construction of ADA compliant mid-block pedestrian crossing, the east and west side of Lakeview by Somerset. That will take $127,543.50. And then 30%, which is the max we allow for to fund the yard assistance program. You know, we mow the lawns for seniors, low-income seniors and persons with disabilities in the fall, spring, summer, and then we shovel their snow in the winter. And that will take $54,661.50. So I ask your approval for the 2024 funds.
Thank you. Any questions for Cindy? Councilmember Gunn.
Because I'm new at this, what are the street improvements? What do they include?
That one's going to include, and I don't know if Kurt wants to come up, because that was a question in your Q&A. We had a request from several residents to connect the sidewalks on the east and west side of Lakeview by Somerset with a mid-block crossing. I guess on the west side, it terminates without a crossing, so this will connect the two with an ADA-compliant pedestrian crossing. If Kurt wants to give a little bit more, if you need more. We receive these funds every year from the federal government, and then the county administers the funds, and then we decide what project, and it has to be approved by the county and the federal government.
Gotcha, okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't know how much more I can add. I think Cindy did a great job explaining the project. Lakeview there is a 5-lane highway, the 5th lane being the center turn lane. We did get a request from Somerset North, the subdivision just north of Somerset Collection, to have a pedestrian crossing there because they're so active, and there's a current pedestrian sidewalk that leads into that subdivision. So they requested this, I would say probably about 3 years ago, and we took this opportunity to use the grant funding to make this come to reality. reality. The pedestrian crossing will include advanced warnings to let motorists know that there is pedestrian crossing there, a rapid flashing beacon, which will alert drivers that there's a pedestrian waiting to cross, and what we call a refuge island, very similar to the one on Waddles Road for the Troy Trail. This will allow pedestrians to only cross 2 lanes of traffic at a time.
And what we do is, once we have council approval, we have to have a public hearing, and then I will fill out the application, and that goes to the county, they approve it, and they will release our funds not until probably late 2024.
Gotcha, okay.
Any other questions? All right, it's also a public hearing, so open the public hearing. Once again, I don't see anyone has signed up to speak on E2, but that doesn't prohibit you from coming forward now. All right, I'll close the public hearing and ask for someone to move the resolution. Councilmember Hamilton.
I'll move E2, public hearing, community development block grant 2024 funds as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Hamilton, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick, that we approve E2 public hearing, community development block grant, CDBG 2024 funds as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes. Motion carries. That concludes public hearings this evening. Next up is public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. There's a good handful of people signed up. There's also a good handful of people signed up under L, public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. As I look at those names, I suspect most of you are also speaking technically on things on the agenda. So with council consensus, I'd like to advance all the people who signed up for L to be part of F as well.
Sure.
Is that good? All right. As a reminder, each of you have 3 minutes. The clock will be in front of you when the light turns yellow. You have 1 minute left. When it turns red, your 3 minutes are up. As stated in the council rules of procedure, this is not a back and forth question and answer. It's a one-way directed communication. We will have an opportunity to respond or reply if we like at the termination of all public commenters this evening. And with that, I also will remind the audience that applause is not permitted by our rules, so please withhold any applause so I don't have to use the gavel. All right. That said, first up is Edward Ross.
Just as I thought the election season was over, I saw the news that Ann Erickson Galt created a vacancy on the council that you will soon fill. I think that the city would be well served. Would be well served to hear from 4 or 5 qualified candidates in an interview style, similar to what we did when Rebecca first joined the city council. I'm happy that the city council race was competitive, and I believe mostly positive. We didn't have the insane negativity that other cities go through during the elections. I want to credit the 6 other people that ran for that, and I want to thank Ethan for setting the tone from the beginning. I also want to thank all of you for your time and energy that you put in this council to make Troy a great place to live. While I grew up in Sterling Heights, I moved to Troy in 2012 when I was transitioning back from living and working in Afghanistan on USAID and World Bank projects. I joined the fire department in 2019 to serve my community and do my part. I missed the camaraderie, and the hands-on department seemed like a good fit. The fact that it took me 5 years to join led me to join the recruitment and retention committee on the fire department. I give almost 5,000 hours of service to our community every year, about 100 hours a week. A number of those are spent training, responding to calls, and from the mundane to the catastrophic. Even if we go days or weeks between calls, our lives are on constant hold, not knowing when the next call is going to come. The biggest reason I'm seeking a position on City Council is my passion for helping improve public safety in Troy and to fix the issues and problems that we do have before they grow larger. I believe that we can work together to build on the opportunities before us, and I believe that I bring a unique perspective to the work. I have the experience of being a first responder with a first-person in-depth personal knowledge of how the public safety system works in Troy, what its strengths and weaknesses are, and how it works in practice. I want to take a practical, collaborative approach to develop solutions with you and for the residents of our city. I'm drawn to opportunities to help others, whether it was in Hurricane Katrina with the Red Cross or recently with ongoing work in Ukraine getting equipment to the Eastern Front. In addition to my volunteer work, my background includes an MBA with technical software background and management and finance. And I do believe that I am the right person for our city today. So I want to thank you for listening and for your service to our city.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ethan.
Appreciate you coming forward this evening. Next up is Kelly Walters. All right. Next up then will be Todd Wodzinski. Oh. Are you Kelly? Oh, it's fine. Welcome.
Apologize, I'm hard of hearing too, but good evening and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I just wanted to support and encourage the appointment of Edward Ross to fill a vacancy on the Troy City Council. I've been a resident of Troy for a total of 20 years, 10 years early on, 10 years now. Out of all those times, I've only had 2 people knock on my door. One, I think, was actually you, Councilmember Chamberlain, and then one is Ed Ross. I think it's indicative of his passion, his determination, his motivation, his desire to be here for the people. He even worked with another candidate, which is usually, I've never heard of that before. Usually your opponents, but he actually worked with another candidate, Councilmember Gunn, and I appreciated that too because it shows he can work with people on all sides of the fence. His citizens, or his service to the citizens of Troy, we know fire department, everything he does for Troy, everything he does for others. He just epitomizes everything a city council member should be, and I encourage you to consider him for appointment or at least taking some applications and interviews in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming forward this evening. All right, next up is Todd Wodzinski.
All right, good evening, Mayor Baker, Troy City Council members, and of course, my fellow Troy residents. My name is Todd Wodzinski. I'm a resident of Troy. I'm also the commander of your local Veterans of Foreign Wars organization. So I encourage you all to stop by the VFW and visit our veterans, and they'd love to share their life stories with you. So I have a great level of respect for public service, including all of you, of course, our first responders and military. So I'm here to endorse Ed Ross. I think he embodies the spirit of community service and community dedication. He's a devoted volunteer firefighter, as was just mentioned, and he serves our community. You know, he gives his time and his energy to protect us, you know, our safety and our property. And I think he has demonstrated the ability to remain calm under pressure, make good decisions, and work effectively within a team, which is invaluable in the context of city governance. So I think he brings a unique perspective. He's definitely a unique individual. As he mentioned, or his supporters mentioned, he knocked on a lot of doors. I give him a lot of credit for the race that he ran. I'll just finish with Troy's a great city. Mayor Baker's a great leader, and I think he deserves a city council that'll work with him to make us safer, give us a more prosperous future, and reflective of the values that we hold dear in this community. So thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate your words this evening as well. Next up is Bob Dillaber.
Good evening. My name is Bob Dillaber, and before I say anything, Ed had invited me, asked me if I would come and say a word or two about him, and I jumped at the chance. But before I tell you, please excuse the hat and the beard and the ponytail, because I was in the corporate world for 20 years before I retired. So I kicked off my feet and let my hair grow, and now I do what I want to do. So. Anyway, I got to tell you, I met Ed in the most unusual way that you can imagine. I met him on Nextdoor. The Nextdoor app. If you know what the Nextdoor app is, it's local people getting together and helping one another do things. And there's all kind of people on Nextdoor, even some kind of grumpy people. But I have lived next door to them most of my life anyway. But Nextdoor, there's a lot of people on there, and they're mostly there to help one another, to offer advice, to help, and sometimes bring people a bowl of soup. And I've been on there and I watch people and watch them write. And sometimes you notice a certain person and you pay attention to him, and Ed was one of those people. I didn't know him or anything. But I just watched what he was writing and how he was acting and what he was offering and helping people. And I got interested, so I just kind of followed him. Then I learned he was running for council. I'm sorry to tell you, but there's a lot of people in Troy that don't know nothing about Troy politics. And I was one of them. I didn't care about nothing. 15 years, I came from Berkeley. So I started to learn a little bit more, and we connected, and I got to know him, and I learned about what his background was, how he was in Afghanistan and working there, and how just recently he went over on his own to help deliver trucks to the Ukraine that they could use. And the other thing that I learned about him was, and this is so important to me in life, and that is how he treats people. He treats people with dignity and generosity. That's what I've seen. And that's, at this point in my life, I'm 84, at this point in my life, that is what I see as the most important thing that any of us can ever do in our lives, and that is to treat other people with kindness and dignity. And that's why I will be really happy if he can be a representative of me here in Troy. I'm sure that everybody else you might consider may be cut from the same cloth, but I know it's true about him. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate you coming forward, and I'm also appreciative that you found something positive about Nextdoor. That's tough, so good for you. Really appreciate that. Next up is Ruba Saman.
Hello. My name is Ruba Saman. I've been a resident of Troy since I came to the U.S., since I migrated in 1996. I have two kids who grew up here, went to Troy School, and this is where I met Ed and his lovely wife, Nikki, and IA, the International Academy, where my son went there, his daughter went there too. So we both were volunteer at the Music Booster. And we went together on trips with the music department. We helped with whatever they asked us to do. And this is how I learned what a great person he is. He's always willing to help, very friendly. The kids love him and trust him. And then later on, when I learned later that he is also a firefighter, I was amazed. Like when somebody else fires and everybody runs out, he's one of the people who are willing to run in and help, which is, I think it's very commendable, and it is like a great feature that can let us really know that he's someone that we can trust, and I would love to see him serving on the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruba. Thank you. Next up is Tony Smith.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As a 31-year resident of Troy, U.S. Navy veteran, and recently retired GM research engineer, I'm pleased to recommend Ed Ross for the vacant position on the Troy City Council. As a veteran, I'm impressed by Ed's time serving with USAID in Afghanistan. His experience in navigating and solving intricate logistical challenges in a high-pressure environment speaks volumes about his problem-solving skills and resilience. His experiences abroad have undoubtedly equipped him with a unique perspective and deep understanding of handling complex issues, qualities that are invaluable in a city council role. As a veteran and former GM Fire Brigade member closer to home, I am impressed by Ed's commitment to our community as a volunteer firefighter. His firsthand experience has made him acutely aware of the critical staffing shortages faced by our police, fire, and EMS services. He possesses an intimate understanding of these challenges, which positions him as a candidate equipped to tackle these crucial issues head-on. What sets Ed apart from other candidates is his focus on public safety. In a time where others merely mention they will keep Troy safe, Ed actively engages with and addresses the specific challenges facing our city, namely a shortage of police and fire personnel and a lack of guaranteed EMS coverage. He was the only candidate who demonstrated an understanding of our public safety issues and is committed to implementing tangible solutions. I have great respect for the Troy Police and Fire Departments, but it's difficult for them to do their job the way they would like with the staff shortages they currently have. The latest 2022 statistics from the FBI paint a concerning picture of the escalating crime rates in our city. Since 2018, there's been an 85% increase in reported violent crimes, a 172% surge in larceny theft cases since 2020, and a 161% rise in motor vehicle theft cases during the same period. These figures underscore the urgency of appointing a candidate like Ed, who not only acknowledges Troy's public safety issues, but is prepared to take proactive steps to address them. Ed possesses the leadership, dedication, and problem-solving skills required to make a meaningful and positive impact on the Troy City Council. His commitment to public safety and his comprehensive approach to addressing our community's challenges make him the ideal candidate for this position. I urge you to consider Ed Ross for the vacant Troy City Council position. I have no doubt that his contributions will be invaluable in safeguarding and enhancing the well-being of our city and its residents. Thank you, Mayor and council members, for your time.
Thank you, and well-timed.
And I have handouts of those statistics if anybody wants them.
Thank you. Next up is Rick Thior.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. You almost got it right, Ethan. It's Thoyer.
Thoyer.
We would have corrected him on that, but good evening. All right, I'm Rick Thoyer. I've written the following letter to support Ed Ross for the Troy City Council. My wife and I are longtime property owners and residents of Troy dating back to the 1970s. We currently live on John R. by the Boys and Girls Club. We met Ed in August of 2023 as a result of the proposed baseball fields by League Sports to be built in our neighborhood. Ed, who does not live in the surrounding neighborhood, made his presence known almost immediately. He reached out to our neighbors, determined to understand our concerns and help where and when necessary. As almost all the impacted neighbors were instantly up in arms regarding the proposal, Ed's approach was calm, cool, collected, very methodical, and hands-on. Initially, he did not pass judgment one way or another. What he did do was attend the on-site meetings, talk to countless neighbors, take the time to actually walk the property with me and several other neighbors, and then come to the conclusion the baseball fields just did not belong there. This hands-on approach then demonstrates his strong leadership ability to make sure you understand a given situation before you act on it. The understanding the facts first is just one example of what makes Ed a strong leader and excellent decision maker. Once involved, it was instantly evident not only Ed is very passionate about life in general, but he is very passionate about the well-being of our residents, our community, and our city. Ed and I spent countless hours knocking on doors, developing flyers, getting signatures, etc., to help put a stop to the League Sports baseball field proposal. As a whirlwind of things were happening very quickly, Ed's strong leadership skills definitely helped the neighborhood pull together and roll the boat in a coordinated manner. He demonstrated step-by-step guidance of what we needed to do. In the end, the baseball fields, as we all know, were dismissed. Ed was at my house and in the neighborhood multiple times throughout the entire process. He was relentless. I recall one night, it was 2 a.m. and he was still going, and I had to ask him to leave my house. You didn't know that, Ed, but as I got to know Ed, it didn't take long to realize he is very smart and very highly educated. He also has an in-depth military and firefighting experience. He is a guy who will put his life on the line to protect our lives. Unfortunately, today, there are not enough Eds in the world, or we'd all have a better place to live. With the education, the passion, the desire, the drive, the knowledge, the extreme experience of helping others when needed, the shoe fits. So Ed Ross needs to be on the Troy City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Thoyer.
Thank you.
Next up is Dr. Michael Russ.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm a resident of this community for 37 years, and I have 3 kids that have graduated from Troy High. I'm an emergency physician by profession. I came here from the Bronx. I trained at Detroit Receiving. I worked in the emergency department in the trauma center in Flint. And I wanted to talk about 2 particular issues. One is Ed Ross, but before I speak about him, I want to talk about how we go about replacing a sudden vacancy on the city council. My thoughts are that it's a great idea to appoint somebody temporarily, but at the very next time when we have an election, like this coming February, is when that we should have an opportunity as citizens of Troy to vote on who should be that person to fill that slot. I don't think it's a good idea when someone we just elected is appointed to another position and creates that spot. I think it's only fair to the citizens that we get a chance to vote again. And I remember when we replaced Janice Daniels at that time, the plan was to wait until the next year, as I think the plan is right now. And that didn't seem right or fair. And I don't know the law, I know medicine. And I talked to a few people I know, and they said, talk to Rusty Hills. And Rusty Hills says, well, the law says that you should have an election in February to replace that person, and the Attorney General sued to make sure that we held an election to fill that slot. So I'm hoping that we could kind of move in that direction. Now, I think a great person for that slot would be Ed Ross. And how I first learned about Ed Ross is I had a gazillion people calling me and saying, Dr. Ross, what member of your family is Ed Ross? And I said, Ed Ross who? But then one day, I was hanging out with the grandkids at my son's house, Joshua Ross, and Ed came knocking on the door. And it was an opportunity for me to find out who Ed Ross was, and I got talking to him, and I was really so impressed. And I learned that he was a volunteer firefighter. And, I'm telling you what, as an ER doc, we know how important firefighters are and how police are and paramedics are. And that's crucial to the workability of a community, to the safety and quality of a community, and he really has a lot of stuff that he knows about that area. So that was very impressive to me. So then I decided to do a little research background. I found out about this international work he was doing in Afghanistan, where he was working on building infrastructure in an international community that was underwater. And I said, wow, those skills would be vital here because we're an international community. And I said, wow, we really need to have Ed Ross on the city council. So I decided I would work on trying to get him elected. But now that we've got an opening, we need somebody with these vital details. So I hope that you'll think about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Russ. Next up, Barb Yeagley.
Okay. Good evening. I don't know who all you're considering to replace Ann, but I wanted to express some concerns as you're going through the process. And this is going to sound off the wall, but I'm concerned about the prospects of weaponizing the police department. I'm somewhat right of center, and I've been heavily involved in the pro-life movement. And so I've had encounters with police who were weaponized against pro-lifers. Now, they weren't serious encounters, but I've noticed that they have gotten more and more serious over time, especially, one of the candidates for council actually marched with people holding ACAB sign, which, as you may or may not know, stands for All Cops Are Bastards. That is also a model for Antifa, which I view as an extremely radical group of people. Not saying that this candidate was radical, however, the people that tend to endorse that point of view also, when they get elected into office, will weaponize the police. And I would say that Dana Nessel is a perfect example of someone who has done just that. So as you're considering who you're having to fill in your vacancy here. I hope you will consider that we want to make sure that you don't have extremists on the council who would try to shift to attacking basically decent people. We get enough of that on next door, by the way, so. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Barb. Next up is Harak Chanda.
Mayor Becker and member of the Tri-City Council, I stand before you today filled with gratitude and honor. Running for City Council seat in Troy has been an incredible journey, one that has allowed me the privilege of meeting countless people who make up this unique city that I'm proud to call home. I believe that I resonated with many, many voters. While I fell just short of securing a seat in the council, the journey has been truly, truly remarkable. It has only strengthened my commitment and dedication to make sure that Troy remains one of the best places in Michigan to live. I want to extend my congratulations to the newly elected members of the council, Mayor Becker and Councilmember Brooks. Congratulations on your re-election. I also want to congratulate Ann Erickson-Galt for being appointed to the Oakland County Commission, and I'm thrilled that we'll have representation in the county office now. And lastly, I want to congratulate Mark Gunn, Councilmember Mark Gunn, on not one, but 2 counts. First, for being elected and running a very hard-fought campaign. And secondly, it's more personal, you probably even don't know the reason, for being a member of the exclusive list of people who managed to break my heart. So, and I can assure you are the only male member in that small list. I want to express my gratitude to each and every one of you for being a public servant. I know this is a voluntary job. It's not something anyone gets paid for. But I would like you to know that I am interested in being appointed to this newly vacated position in the City Council. I'm committed to bringing fresh perspective and the diverse voice of a large immigrant community that constitutes about 1/3 of our city's population. Today, you have an historic opportunity to celebrate the diversity of our city while honoring the mandate of Troy voters at the same time. I believe together we can continue to build a city that we are all very proud to call home. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Harak. Thanks for coming tonight. Next up is Janice Gerling.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I've been a resident of Troy for the past 12 years, going on 13. My husband and I chose Troy over several other cities because of its beauty, its diversity, its school district's reputation, and also public safety, very important to us. We have one daughter who's now a senior at Athens High School, and we have truly enjoyed all this city has had to offer. I'm grateful for Mayor Baker's leadership and for the efforts of so many who have served on this council to maintain the standards of the city. And I'm personally inspired. I want to say tonight I'm personally been inspired by Mr. Mark Gunn, who has also shown through his hard work and perseverance the meaning of community service and standing up for fellow citizens, even when he didn't hold office. So I'm really pleased to see him in this seat tonight. I am recently concerned about the rise in crime throughout our state and city. I've been noticing it more and more. And as a gentleman suggested, there are statistics out there that you can all look up. I would like to see this addressed first and foremost before it becomes a bigger issue. The recently vacated seat on the City Council needs to be filled with a leader who has the right kind of experience and knowledge to work to help resolve this. I'm here tonight to express my support for a recent City Council candidate, Edward Ross, for this vacant seat. Ed has been a vocal activist for public safety, for firefighters and police officers, and he is so passionate about working towards solutions to improving these areas within Troy. I personally witnessed during the campaign cycle the overwhelming bipartisan support that Ed received from the Troy voters. In my opinion, the bipartisan support is crucial for the continued success of our city and the betterment of all Troy citizens. I understand that the council has a standard procedure. Hopefully that will be discussed later in the agenda for interviewing candidates for the vacant position, and I'm asking tonight that Ed Ross be seriously considered in this process and for the vacant seat for City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gerling. Appreciate you coming forward this evening. Next up is Deborah Wilkelis.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Wilkelis, and I'm a 40-year resident of Troy, believe it or not. I've lived here for a long time. I'm here to talk with you supporting Ed Ross for a candidate for City Council. And I believe that because this is a non-par position, he has knocked on every door. He didn't go to red doors or blue doors, or he went to every single door and he talked to people. And he would come back and say, I learned so much. And I really either talked with them and got them to see my side, or I got to see their side. And I think that he took everything to heart, and he would be a good person to advance. Talk about representing immigrants. He's lived all in different places of the world. I think he has an open mind. I think that he is passionate and very passionate about the city of Troy, the safety of Troy, and he understands public safety for sure. So please consider him for the open seat, and he would be a good candidate to represent everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate you coming. Next up is Kathleen O'Loughlin.
Hello. Thank you, Mayor Ethan Baker and council members. And congratulations, Mark Gunn, for your campaign and everything. But anyway, I don't want to reiterate everything anybody has said. I've been in Troy for almost 40 years. I've owned my own house for 30. And I've seen Troy grow, and I'm glad to see that Troy is growing. And the Troy City Councils are always talking about public service, that being the most important thing. But then I see the crime rates go up in the Troy Times and things like that. So I want to put Ed Ross on the slate for candidacy or to be considered for the City Council. As he's a firefighter, he's a first responder. I like him very much. The more I get to know him, the better I like him. And so that's all I have to say for now. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kathleen. Thanks for coming. And last is Jeff Shaper.
How y'all doing? Just a real quick fact, the board has now become more diverse because Mark Gunn is a Native American. Congratulations, Troy. All right, I applaud the use of the interview process for the best candidate for Troy City Council. I'm here to support Ed Ross for council. He has displayed passion to serve, protection of the community by his service as a firefighter, and his perception of the issues that face the Troy residents, particularly in the area of public safety. Ed Ross is a problem solver. He has demonstrated that his entire life. And for that, I believe that he, like you, will be a servant leadership that you're all displaying. And with that, I endorse Ed Ross for City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. That concludes those that have signed up for public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. Now's an opportunity for City Council or administration to respond or reply. I just want to check with council. I-4 is a discussion item as it relates to this vacancy. Is it good for you all to wait to the discussion until we move on to that?
I just want to clarify the record on one thing. It's been a couple months, but the last update I've had of crime in the city of Troy is significantly down in the year 2023. So just for all the people that are throwing these stats around, please include 2023 too in that. That's all.
All right. Thanks, Dave. And City Attorney Bloom, did you want to speak about the process for how long we appoint? Was that something? Or
No,
Okay.
Mayor, I just wanted to clarify. Dr. Ross had brought up that he thought that the election should be in February. Our charter actually dictates that it be in August of '24. So that's by our charter section 6.7.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right, we'll discuss, I'll say it this in case I forget during I-4. Thank you all for coming this evening. I truly mean it. It's important to have your voices always come forward, and we appreciate the time and also the decorum and respect you brought into the chamber this evening with your words. I think that goes a long way in having a meaningful discussion and thought process. We don't have any postponed items this evening, so we'll move on to regular business. I-1 is board and committee appointments. First up are mayoral appointments. I have one this evening. I'd like to move to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, Hemant Tadapalli, for the term expiring April 30th, 2026.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick, that we approve the appointment of Hemant Tadapalli to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority for the term expiring April 30th, 2026. Any discussion? I'll just say, Hemant is here tonight. Thank you for your willingness to do this, and look forward to having you on that board, assuming the vote goes your way. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Motion carries. There are no city council appointments this evening, so we move on to I-2, board and committee nominations. I don't have any board and committee nominations this evening, and my understanding is there's no city council nominations either. So we will move on. I-3, there's no closed session requested. So move on to I-4, city council vacancy, and that'll be introduced by our city attorney, Lori Grigblum.
Thank you, Mayor. Unexpectedly, our former Councilwoman Ann Erickson-Galt was appointed to the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, and that has created a unique situation. Because her term actually didn't expire until after the appointment, there is a resolution that would accept her resignation, also declaring her term that ended by 7:30 p.m. this evening, declaring that vacant. The second proposed resolution is to declare the position that she was elected for, the council seat that she was elected for, vacant because the incompatible offices under the state statute prohibits her from serving in both capacities as an Oakland County Board of Commissioner member and also as a city council member. So there are proposed resolutions for your consideration, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. I noticed in the memo for I-4, the penultimate line, or the big ask is city administration seeks city council's direction, which means you need to know what we want to do, right?
Correct.
So I expect that's the discussion we'll have from this table this evening as it relates to I-4 and how to fill that vacancy. And of course, it would be appropriate to talk about anything we heard this evening from the residents who came. So with that, any questions for city administration about I-4? We'll start there. Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga.
City Attorney Bloom, can you explain kind of the pros and cons of doing option 1 or 2? Is that just up to us?
Well, there's not really an option 1 or an option 2. The only thing that the charter mandates is that you fill the council position within 30 days. That is the mandate. There are no further directions as far as how you fill that position. I can indicate to you that in the past, council has accepted applications, has conducted interviews, and there are 2 regular meetings where you could consider interviews, and still that would be within the 30-day period of time. You also could schedule a special meeting if that is what you choose to do. You do not have to go through the appointment process. However, there is no mandate to do that, and this is a unique situation in that there was a very recent election as well.
Additional questions? Someone want to move the resolution? That way we'll start talking then.
Sure.
Councilmember Hamilton?
I'd like to move I-4, city council vacancy, as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Hamilton, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain-Crainga, that we approve I-4 city council vacancy as printed in the agenda packet as an opportunity for discussion. Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. It's funny because in our last meeting before the election, we all said our heartfelt goodbye messages to Councilmember Edna Abraham, and at the time, I had no idea I'd be having to give a heartfelt message goodbye to another council member, Ann Erickson Gall. And so I'm going to take an opportunity to do this here off the cuff. This happened last, was it Thursday? So really haven't had time to even really think about it. I always admired Ann for her courage in stepping up and standing up for our city against a lot of the issues we had in the past. She was one of the few, seemed at the time, lone voices that stood up and was one of the people who inspired me to run for council. When I read her name in the paper and saw her standing up against our former city manager and the things he was doing, it woke me up to what was going on in the city and made me get more involved and contributed to me running. So I hate to lose you on this council. But to have representation in the county, in Troy, is such a substantial thing. The amount of interaction we have with the county is substantial. We get a lot of dollars towards roads. We get a lot of dollars towards other, like they administer the CDBG funds, which we just voted on earlier today. So to have you on that is a huge asset for our city. It's a huge loss here, but I understand, we lost Commissioner Gary McGillivray, who's a lifelong public servant. I've talked in the past about Mayor Gene Stein and Councilmember Tony Pilata. Well, Gary McGillivray was that for the city of Madison Heights, and he'll be deeply missed. I only knew him a little bit, but he was one of the most bipartisan and devoted public servants, and we'll miss him. And Ann has big shoes to fill on commission, but I'm grateful that we have her there to represent the city of Troy. As far as the council vacancy, we had one of these with Councilmember Chamberlain-Crainga a few years ago, and we went through the interview process and everything. But this is a unique situation because just 2 weeks ago, the people of Troy spoke, and one candidate received several hundred more votes. That one candidate that failed to win the third seat had significantly more votes than the other, and was only 43 votes shy of being elected to this council. And I think the only thing I can do to respect the voters of Troy is to appoint Harak Chanda. I do think we should, it'd be a little sudden to do it tonight. I'm okay with maybe waiting till the next meeting in 2 weeks to do that, but I will be supporting Harak Chanda for the appointment. That appointment will be good till August, where the voters will decide who will fill the remainder of the term for the next 3+ years after that. So that's where I'm at on it, and that's what I'd like to see done. If we do the interview process, I already made my decision based on democracy, so I'm settled where I am at on that.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Hamilton. Additional comments, discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
First, thank you, Ann Erickson Gall. I can't do it. I broke down about Edna, I'm going to break down about Ann. And I don't have Kleenex handy. Everybody's good looking in the drawer. There are people of different political parties in this room. I'm going to state the obvious here tonight. And that's fine. That's great. Sometimes we know exactly where people are in that political spectrum because they've had a long experience within a certain party. That was the case with Ann when she was first elected. This role really requires us, by charter, and frankly, because the work at hand is such, to be nonpartisan and to really work with one another, to listen to ideas from one another, and see the solution. And Ann, you just were able to do that, like, so well. no matter where you are on the political spectrum, I witnessed her just really do and see and synthesize information brilliantly. And she has a great sense of humor to boot. So I'm going to miss her as a colleague. I am thrilled that you will be representing Troy and that we have now an actual resident of Troy sitting on the Oakland County Commission. And I know that you will strive to represent every single resident here. They call you and they're looking for something, you're going to help them. And I am pleased with that. But darn you, I'm really going to miss you in this seat. This is, I forget how many times I've experienced a council vacancy. It's unusual for it to happen this quickly after an election, but this isn't our first rodeo here with having to fill a seat. There was a previous one where one of our council members went to serve on commission for Troy, and then we had to fill the seat. As some during comment indicated, there is that option, not dictated by charter, but that councils have chosen to do, to take applications and to do interviews. But you know what? That was largely, we absolutely had to do that because we didn't know for sure who was interested in the council seat. Seeking applications was an obvious step to discern who might be interested in these seats in a formal way. Our recent election was just, I think it was Thursday when it was made official, the results official, like literally minutes ago in the scheme of things. We knew as a community who was interested in these seats. And we see the results and the metrics are there. I mean, the numbers are there. I have to say we are very fortunate that the number of people supporting the fourth place candidate who emailed us did not show up to speak for 3 minutes apiece because we'd still be listening. There were, I think, 80 emails. So you might have one sense of where opinions lie based on the comments here, but we are getting input via email as well. Having lived through the application and interview process, I should have counted the number of times, it's cumbersome. It is disruptive to the operations of the city, including actions and work that we're wanting to do on behalf of public safety, in addition to many other opportunities and challenges that always are facing the city. I appreciate that Ed Ross did come here tonight to speak to us. I did watch and get to know and took in his approach for the election, and he clearly connected with a number of voters. But the numbers between the 4th place and the 5th place where he is were significant enough that I think you could understand, no matter who you support, if you take the names out, that asking council to disregard those numbers and what the voters of the city brought on their ballots, that is a big ask of us. That's basically asking us to override what we just recently got finalized on Thursday. I do appreciate the passion for this candidate, though. That's not to say that I'm disagreeing with what people are saying or that why they support him or that he was stepping in. And of course, I value that he's a volunteer firefighter. But the numbers just got finalized. The clerk is probably still cleaning up in her office from the most recent election. It's not 3 months from now. It's not 6 months from now. It was literally like yesterday. So there would be a huge number of voters who would feel very disenfranchised by this body overriding their vote. I'd like you to place yourself in our shoes and what that ask would be and what the reaction would be from the voters. And take that with you from tonight. You know, selfishly, we're also, when we have an election season and a campaign, it does slow the work of the city. Another month of looking at interviews and applications, when it's not as if we don't know these people or don't understand their background or what our fellow residents feel, is that an appropriate ask of the business of the city? There's trade-offs basically to be made if we do that, and likely come to the same conclusion, would be my guess, and I think it's a reasonable one, that we already saw in the results of the voters. It doesn't mean we're not listening to the information that we've gotten from those that took the time to come here and speak to us tonight. But really, is that truly an appropriate ask? Do you want a city government body? If the candidate was different, if it was the other, if the tables were turned, how would you feel if the city council overturned that? Just take the names out. Those are my reflections and what I've been spinning with in my mind all weekend, sharing it with you as you've shared your thoughts with us. I personally believe that the right action for us to take is to direct City Council to bring on the next agenda a resolution that would allow for the appointment of the next candidate in line in terms of the results. And of course, that name is Harak Chanda. But it could have been the other way around, and it would be Ed Ross, and I would say the same thing. It could have been Dale Murish. It could have been Ed Kempen. Am I missing a candidate?
No.
It could have been a write-in. If that's what took forth, that's what I would advocate for from here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick. Councilmember Gunn.
I'll speak on it since I'm kind of the one that created the issue here with Chandra. Well, first of all, I'm new at this now, but I am not new at running. Okay, I lost in 2017. There was an opening in 18. I applied, and I didn't get the position. I ran before. I lost to my friend Sharon, and I understand the pain of running a campaign and losing, and what you then have to do after. Being new on the council, and I did run and say that I believe in transparency, I believe that there's already a process in place, and we have a couple good candidates here, and there may be somebody better than both of those that could apply, and we could find another person that could fill that position. But there's a procedure in place. I think it's a good one. And if I had lost, I would have expected to apply, too, again. So I'm just saying that given that there's already a procedure in place, I would yield to the people that have designed this process so that maybe there's another candidate that could apply and we could see, somebody in place. So that would be my position.
Thank you, Councilmember Gunn. Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to start by congratulating our former council member, Ann Erickson Galt. My first reaction was, oh, dang, who's Teresa? Who are we going to hang out with at Michigan Municipal League, at MML, at CapCon, at convention? We were kind of a group who always win. And then I was like, oh, dang, I'm your alternate to the SEMCOG Healthy Climate Task Force. And I have a new job, so we'll have to find someone else to replace you. But I am so delighted. I cannot think of anyone else better who could have had that position. And the fact that you get to bring power to Troy by representing us and bring home those bucks back to our community. So I'm so happy for you, Ann, so excited. In terms of a process, so I agree with my colleagues that we just went through an election. And I know when I went through a process where I was appointed. I went through a process where there was a vacancy in the middle of a year. And I remember a comment was made that those who had just run in elections have an advantage because they've just been out knocking on doors. They've just have heard what people want, what people are thinking. And so in my mind, to open up a whole process when we've had an election and we've had a number of people who've been able to knock on doors and talk to people and hear what they want, hear what they have to say, and that very clearly there was a very small difference of votes between Mr. Gunn, Councilmember Gunn, and Hirak Chanda, I think it would not be within the best interest of the city government. As Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick just stated, it would not be a good fiduciary to hold up the business. We have a lot of big business ahead of us, including a major strategy session coming up very soon, for us to stop and go through a process when we have just had an election. We have just had candidates passionately knock on doors. And I believe in the will of the people, and the will of the people are in those numbers. And for that reason, I will support Hirak Chanda and would like to see something on the next agenda to move in that direction.
Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain-Carenga. Councilmember Brooks?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I have to say some words about Ann. So Ann was my slate mate, and we really started this journey together in 2019. And I've gotten to know her so well, and Ann and I are very much in sync as far as kind of our thought process and everything. And, you know, running this last election, we became even closer. And there were a lot of times where people would ask us questions and we kind of look at each other and be like, do you want to answer this or do you want me to? We are very much like just eye to eye, very much in sync. And I've appreciated so much your dedication to the city. I know how much you give. I know you're just a wonderful person. You really, truly are. And Oakland County Commission is lucky to have you because I know that you are going to do such a great job because you have done such a great job here for the past 4 years. So I'm so sorry to miss you, but I also look forward to having a good connection between our city and the county. I think that that will be a wonderful thing to have a resident who is so dedicated to our city also serving at the county level. So I'm just so happy for you, Ann, and I know you're going to do such a wonderful job, and you're going to be so missed. So that's just kind of my personal words. And then as far as, you know, filling the seat, I also agree with my fellow council members. You know, we went through the process with Councilmember Chamberlain-Carenga, and then it was a different time because we didn't have a recent election that had happened literally, you know, 2 weeks ago to kind of look at and say, okay, these are potential candidates, these are what residents want. But we've had a very recent election, and it was so close between Councilmember Gunn and Hirak Chanda. And I do think that residents have said what they want. And so I personally don't see the need to go through the same process because this is a different circumstance. And so I think that it does make the most sense to go with the next highest vote getter, especially because it was such a close number. It was such a tight number. And to Dr. Ross's point, that whoever wins has to run, I mean, he will have to run again in August. So, I mean, there will be another chance at that point if people are unhappy that they can, you know, it's the will of the people. So there's plenty of opportunities out there if people, you know, are unhappy with our decision, they can voice their displeasure at the ballot box. But I do believe that this process makes sense for us as a council, given our circumstances. So.
Thank you, Councilmember Brooks. I'll start with answer. I didn't know if Ann was going to be here tonight, so I'm happy to see her for a number of reasons. I think when I first heard about Ann, it was, she was suing the city, and she was asking for a lot of things, and I was on council. I don't think she really liked me very much, or she had questions about who I was hanging out with or what I was doing, and I get it, based on the times. So in all fairness, in 2019, when I got elected mayor, she got elected onto council, I think there were a lot of people in the city, including some on council, who were cautious in wondering, well, how is this new council member, Ann Exner-Galt, going to be in light of her past experience with the city, in light of what was happening in our city to the south and things. And to Ann's credit, and I've told this to a lot of people, she put a lot of the activist side of Ann Erickson-Galt to the side and became Councilmember Ann Erickson-Galt, and really tried to focus on the city business and exactly how to best do the job of a city council member. And as you'll learn, Mark, it's as I told you earlier today, it's often not about being an activist or about being a campaigner. It's about governing. And there's a certain stateswoman-like quality you have to have up here, or you should have up here, and I think that makes you successful. And I absolutely think Ann slipped into that role really, really well. And I mean, there's a million things I could say. I was ready for Edna's departure. I had some time to think about it, but I will miss Ann's sense of humor. I know that sounds silly, but Ann and I could joke and laugh very well, and I really appreciate that, because some of these issues are not always very fun, and it's nice to be able to have someone to share a good laugh with. And I will also miss the fact that she's an attorney. She was the other attorney up here with me, and that always gave me a little bit of help. And but the reality is, we are very fortunate to have a Troy resident now being our county commissioner again. For those of you who aren't really paying attention to the County Board of Commissioners, which a lot of you don't, as I've learned, we have 3 seats in Troy, and none of them were represented by Troy residents. And so it is nice to have someone from Troy specifically on that board. And like the decision we're facing with a council vacancy, Ann's going to have to run to retain that seat and start a whole process over again. And but it's good to have you there in Pontiac advocating for Troy, and I look forward to working with you in that capacity. And you will be missed up here, and it did come as an absolute shock, especially coming off of an election, to try to figure all that out. But I wish you well, and I know that you'll do a good job up there, and I hope that you continue to be such a strong Troy advocate on the county commission. And I hope you find other people to laugh with as well. They won't be as fun as I am, I'm just saying right now. But that's not really, I mean, let's talk about the vacancy a little bit. I can count, I think all of you can count, 4 people have said what they want to give consensus to, and that's to appoint Harak Chanda at the next meeting. I'm just going to be really frank. That's pretty clear. That is all it takes. I've gone back and forth about this. I've got my political hat, I've got my human hat, I've got my mayor hat, all these things that I think about. And it's tough to have a room full of people who pretty much all, except for Harak, spoke in favor of Ed Ross, which makes it look very strange, probably to Bethany, who's here and thinking, wait, maybe Ed Ross is the one, right? But we did receive about 90, probably almost 100 emails from supporters of Harak since we've been here. That's the way it's been going. They've done a very good job of sending a few every 15 minutes, it seems like. So there are a lot of people that have supported Harak Chanda to be appointed to this seat. And for a lot of the reasons said tonight, I can understand exactly where my fellow council members are thinking. And I know there's going to be some who think this is political or partisan, but it is very unique to have this happen so directly right after an election where about 13,000 people have voted. And it's tough for me, as one of 6 up here, to say, my decision's more important than the 13,000 people who just voted. And Ed, you received a lot of those votes as well, but Harak did receive several hundred more than you, and I can understand where my council colleagues think that makes the most sense, and that doesn't make it any easier, and it's an odd position. I had hoped, I saw you and Ed and Harak out in the lobby during the break, and I thought, oh, maybe they're going to come in here and make it easy for us and tell us one of them's pulling out. I thought that'd be fantastic. I didn't see that happen, but you know what? I was very comforted by the fact that you were talking out there and having a good conversation. It says a lot about both of you. And I also want to say, Harak, I don't know when you signed up to speak if you knew you'd be the only one speaking in your support or support of you. That takes a lot of courage, so I'll give you that as well. It's not easy. But the process we talk about, and I appreciate Councilmember Gunn's comments about the process that's been in place. It seems that every time we appoint somebody through that process, however, no offense to Rebecca, I don't mean it like this, it's clunky and strange. It's a weird process because I don't know, I mean, we talk about an interview process, but it's 6 of us asking questions. We have to ask the same exact question in the same way to each candidate, and it's not a dialogue, it's not a back and forth, and it often leaves people watching, people sitting up here feeling a little bit at odds with the final decision we make. And I think, Rebecca, you were talking about me. I think it was me that said, I give a lot of, for me, appointing somebody, it makes a lot more sense to appoint somebody that just campaigned because they've been out talking to the residents. And it's a little different here because both Ed and Harak are in that position. But when I look at, I think it's too difficult to say, the voters of Troy just voted 2 weeks ago, and although it's too hard to put the 5th place vote getter above the 4th place vote getter. And I just don't think that's right, and I think that the residents of this city would not be happy with this council, and it would damage our city council's credibility and our city's credibility because it would look like we were playing games in something that's very important. So I'm very concerned in our city's image and how we conduct ourselves, and I think that although typically we have used the interview process, because we just had this election, it's in the best interest of the city to move forward in the manner that 4 of the 5 colleagues have expressed. And so I expect that even without me, you've got consensus for that to put it on our next agenda. I hope that we are able to, move out of election season and deal with the serious business that is facing this city. A lot of issues have been brought up in this campaign as they relate to public safety. I don't expect Mr. Ross to stop talking about them, whether that's on Nextdoor or at Mr. Thoyer's house at 2 o'clock in the morning or in our text messages. The point is, we do need to focus on those. We obviously do already, and perhaps it means we need to do a better job of sharing that with the community so everyone is all on the same page. But I think City Manager Miller, you have consensus from this council as what's needed. I appreciate more than you'll ever know everybody's decorum this evening and coming forward and speaking to all of us. And all of you gave food for thought. You all gave a very good nugget of information for each of us to consider. And I am very appreciative of that. This council chamber in years past has seen a lot of hostility and a lot of ugly resident communication, and that's not what was on display tonight. So I'm very thankful for each of you for coming forward tonight in the manner that you did. I think we still need to vote on I-4. All right. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Kringa?
Yes.
Oh, it's only 6. Motion carries. Next up is I-5, adoption of the proposed 2023-2024 City Council Rules of Procedure. And that'll be introduced by our City Clerk, Aileen Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, tonight you have before you the annual review of your rules that we usually do after the November election. We've updated the rotation for Mayor Pro Tem to insert Councilmember Gunn's name, and then also made some minor adjustments to the regular meeting agenda to show when we appoint or elect and appoint the Mayor Pro Tem, and also swear in the council members that are elected. And then also for the SEMCOG appointment, we updated it to be closer to how things will probably be going in the future, where we will not have election results on the Monday after the election. So we just wanted to clear that up to make it more transparent.
Very good. Any City Manager Miller?
I believe this is true that once you make an appointment, we're going to have to bring these back to have the new person put into the rotation for Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, very good. Any questions for city management, city administration? All right, I'll move I-5, adoption of the proposed 2023-2024 City Council Rules of Procedure as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve I-5, adoption of the proposed 2023-2024 City Council Rules of Procedure as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Kringa?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. I'd like to take a 5-minute recess. If that's okay with everybody. almost told Ann to get up here. Oops. All right, next up is I-6 2024, back on the record, by the way. I-6 is 2024 City Council meeting schedule, and that'll be introduced by Bob Bruner, our Deputy City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We brought forward a proposed schedule for 2024 regular City Council meetings back in October, and we're bringing it back now for City Council to actually adopt. The proposed dates haven't changed, but I have received some input on some of the dates. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about January and February and what our options are there. Initially, we had proposed meetings on January 8th and January 22nd. And I've got notification from at least one member of a conflict on the 22nd. Now, 2024 is a really special year because it begins on a Monday. So there are 53 Mondays in 2024. It's like an embarrassment of riches when it comes to scheduling city council meetings. So instead of meeting on January 22nd, the city council could meet on Monday, January 29th. Troy School District has that Monday off, which is why I originally avoided it, but it's not part of a larger break. So if that's not a conflict for anyone, then there's no reason that you couldn't amend the schedule to replace January 22nd with the 29th. Any questions about January before I talk about February?
No question. Any questions about January? That covered your issue, right?
So I was the January date. Do you want me to explain my January?
I don't think you
Okay.
necessarily need. Well, not now. Maybe during discussion if we need to.
Okay, so February is a little more difficult. We had proposed February 5th and 12th in order to avoid, big issue there is a presidential primary on the, I think it's the 25th. And then the other, I'm sorry, Monday the 26th is the day before a presidential primary. So the Monday before any election is really busy for the whole clerk's office and City Hall in general. So we really want to try to avoid that date. Monday the 19th is Troy School District midwinter recess, which if that doesn't pose a problem for anybody, then we could have meetings on February 15th and 19th instead of, I'm sorry, 5th and 19th instead of 5th and 12th. Any questions about February?
Any questions? All right.
Other thing that I'll point out that's different from last year, it's not different from when you saw the proposal, but for the presentation of the budget, and this year we had done it at a special meeting before a regular meeting, and we felt that was kind of rushed and didn't allow enough time. And so for 2024, we're proposing Monday, April 15th, which is not a regular meeting. It's in between regular meetings. And then also Wednesday, the 17th, if necessary. So other than those changes in January and February, I haven't received any other feedback of any other conflicts, and happy to have you move the suggested resolution and amend it in the ways described and adopt the calendar.
I'm going to move I-6 2024 City Council meeting schedule as printed in the agenda, except for amended so that the January 22nd date is now January 29th, and the February 12th date is now February 19th. Support. Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve I-6 2024 City Council meeting schedule as printed in the agenda packet and amended just now on the record. Discussion. You feel like you need to explain yourself, you don't have to, but if you wanted to, I didn't mean to quite earlier.
Worked for me.
All right.
Wait,
Councilmember Brooks?
just confirming, when is President's Day again?
That is the 19th, I think.
Yeah.
February 19th.
Oh, okay.
Yep, the 19th.
That's fine, but
It's, right.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's fine. My daughter has a tournament that weekend, but that's okay, in Florida. But I think it's fine.
If you miss a meeting, you miss a meeting.
I know,
Family
it's fine.
first, right?
It should be fine, though.
Okay. Well, that's a bummer. Any other discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig? Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Bob, for working with this. And obviously, as the resolution says, there could be additional meetings and there likely will be scheduled for other purposes. Next up is I-7 bid waiver, updated Troy Pavilion Great Hall furnishings. That'll be introduced by Kurt Bovenseep, our Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I know I've talked a lot about the pavilion in the past, and just to reiterate, the level of detail that's being placed on this project is second to none. Everything is looked at, including the furnishings. And we did receive originally, when we brought the resolution originally to council, we did receive material examples of the furniture that we originally proposed. We were a little leery on its design, though it's full design, so we did request a sample later on, and it is not going to meet the needs of the city or the end user. And basically, it's because of the weight of the furniture. Elderly people aren't going to be able to slide it back and forth in and out of the table. So we looked at alternatives. We did find a product that matches the theme of the pavilion. It is recycled material. It is a lot lighter. The color is consistent with the other furnishings that we're continuing on with and the other amenity colors around the pavilion. Unfortunately, this particular product, although the manufacturer does have some of the materials in the cooperative programs that we participate in, this particular model line is not part of a cooperative, which is why we're requesting a bid waiver to proceed with the purchasing of the furniture. There isn't a budget amendment necessary because we didn't officially place the original order, so we do have sufficient funds to, in fact, this is a little bit cheaper, but we do have sufficient funds to make this purchase if it were to pass tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Kurt. Questions? Councilmember Hamilton.
When's the opening date?
Yeah.
You knew that was.
Luckily, yeah,
Question we
luckily
all have.
I was prepared for that. We've got some really exciting things going on next week at the site. You'll start seeing the mass timbers come in. Town Center will be closed on the 22nd. Those mass timbers will be delivered. Then the decking will be a couple weeks later. So that's really what's the holdup right now. We are having some issues with utilities, DTE in particular, getting a transformer to power the entire site. So we're working through that. Original projection was at the end of this calendar year. We are delayed. And we're looking at the end of January, beginning of February, and potentially a soft open, which in the middle of February. Honestly, I think I'm looking at the positive. This is new to us. Running an ice rink and running this type of amenity is new to us. So it would give us opportunity to test it out and get people energized for next year and be ready for full force next year. But we will still be skating this year. Next year. Yes. Well, yes, next year. Yes, this winter, this season, but everything will be concluded this winter.
Yeah, issues with DTE, welcome to the club.
Yep.
Any other questions? Someone want to move the resolution? Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move I-7 bid waiver, updated Troy Pavilion Gray Hall furnishings as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Chamberlain Craig, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve I-7 bid waiver, updated Troy Pavilion Great Hall furnishings as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is I-8 budget amendment and standard purchasing resolution 2, award to low bidder meeting specifications, park entrance sign replacement. That'll be introduced by Dennis Trantham, our Deputy Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is a request for a budget amendment, a little unique in the sense that we're requesting to amend the operating budget. Typically, when you see us before you, we're requesting to amend the capital budget. The reason being is the individual cost per sign doesn't meet the capital threshold, so we'll be amending requesting to amend the operating budget. So over the last several years, there's been a lot of discussion about city signage and how some of it's kind of outdated and kind of worn out. At the August 16th meeting, there was a report provided to council that discussed Public Works initiative to replace some of the more distressed, more failing signs, the tertiary signs and park entrance signs. So before you is a request to amend the budget and authorize the purchase of park entrance signs. What this also does is it provides the opportunity for additional signs if we wanted additional signs of that style, different locations. I know Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga asked about the community center sign. I don't feel this sign would probably fit that theme of the community center. We are looking at different opportunities to give a temporary refresh to that. We received one price for that for over $12,000 to just recover the panels, and we felt like it was better to hold off for a more consistent theme of branding for that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dennis. Councilmember Gunn.
Looking at the company, I mean, have you looked at Michigan sign companies versus Ohio?
So this was competitively bid. Signorama was a company that bid on it. So they were not the low bidder, and the way the proposal was written was for a low bid product.
So Ohio, we got it.
So Ohio got it.
Go blue, respect.
Yeah, Councilmember Chamberlain Crago.
Thank you, Mayor. So just a follow-up to my question and answer, and thank you, Dennis. It was very helpful to explain that in terms of the community center sign, because that's the one I see all the time when I go and swim. So you mentioned trying to figure out some temporary solution that's not $12,000.
Correct.
What are you all thinking about? Do you have an idea now that you can share?
So kind of what we're looking to do is to infill that existing outdated Troy Recreation logo that doesn't exist anymore. The problem with infilling that and covering it with vinyl is you'll always see that shadow behind it. So we're trying to find a product to cover that temporarily so we can't cover that sign. And then just basically recover the laminates or the vinyl that's on it.
Sorry, my personal opinion, garbage bag on that sign. That sign is the worst sign in the city. I mean, I hate to say, I mean, honestly, like it's hard to look at, I mean, I'm thrilled about these other signs in this proposal, and I'm very thankful we're here, but I think it is a priority for this council, again, to really work towards that community center sign, which is so prominent in our city on Livernois, and the sign that probably more people see and will see more than any of these other signs. So I'm looking over at Mark, but I appreciate the, 2 marks. Oh. The creativity and anything you can do, I think that's really important. But I did have a question that I probably should have asked earlier, so I apologize. And I know we talked a lot about the logo and how we're not using this logo, or at least we don't want to put it on there. Was there any thought given to whether or not the word Troy should be on the park sign?
Park signs?
Yeah, because it's the design.
They are
now
not
doesn't have
part of the
anything.
design.
Yeah.
So it was just the park names as they are currently.
Okay. And is that okay with everybody? I mean, I'm sorry to micromanage the stupid sign discussion again, but I just want to make sure we're.
Yeah, I'm ready to move forward.
I mean, I'm happy to move forward and recognizing we can always do stuff, but they don't say Troy on there anywhere, and I just want to make sure that's a wise decision on our part.
Yeah, so they are vinyl lettering. They could very easily have the city of Troy added to them. They could very easily have the existing logo added to them. It's something that could be done relatively simply and not at a $5,000 cost if that was council's desire.
Okay, so that's good enough for me for now. Yeah. I think we're still on the question. We haven't even moved this. But Councilmember Chamberlain Craga?
We didn't make a decision, though, about a logo or a city of Troy. We're just saying that
It could be. Yep, it could be.
In the future. Yeah.
Okay, because it'd be my preference not to have a logo, but I would love something with City of Troy on it.
Yeah, so these signs will definitely replicate what was done at the Gene Stein Community Park, where it's the aluminum panel with the vinyl lettering, so that it can be added very easily.
I actually didn't realize that was vinyl lettering that could be changed.
Oh, yeah.
It's good to know. So forgive my question then. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
I agree with Councilwoman Chamberlain Krenga. The previous signs do say City of Troy.
They do.
I don't want a logo because logos change. I mean, even if I loved our logo right now, I don't think I would be advocating, but just some sort of indication of City of Troy. And I don't mean to micromanage. I think we know we'll hear from residents if we don't identify it as being a Troy park in some way. So
And now, is this something we were going to address at the advance too?
It's not on the advance agenda. So,
I guess to offer a suggestion, we could put the city seal, that doesn't change. The city seals on all the public works vehicles, that's timeless in a sense.
this is the problem, and again, I take some of the personal responsibility for getting this far in a sign process and then coming up with something that seemingly causes more questions. I don't know if, and again, from the table, this is not always great discussion, but procedurally, if we approved this tonight, when would these go into fabrication and when would the process start?
Looking at the weather, it probably wouldn't be until the spring, honestly. These, we'll have to have cement foundations put in the ground, so we'd probably be more of a spring project.
Would it be possible to approve this tonight and then maybe have an option looking at that or something as far as adding City of Troy prior to that process?
Yes.
Is there consensus for that?
Sure.
All right. Then I'll move I-8, Budget Amendment and Standard Purchasing Resolution 2, award to low bidder meeting specifications, park entrance sign replacement as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick, that we approve I-8, Budget Amendment and Standard Purchasing Resolution 2, award to low bidder meeting specifications, park entrance sign replacement. Any further discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes, motion carries. That concludes regular business this evening. Next up is the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Councilmember Hamilton?
I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Hamilton, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve all items on the consent agenda as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Motion carries. If you're here for an item on the consent agenda this evening, which no one is, all have been approved. Memorandums and future council agenda items. K1, announcement of public hearing. On December 4th, 2023, there'll be a public hearing to reprogram Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, PY 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023 funds. We already handled public comment, people who had signed up for public comment in the L section, so there's no need for reply. We have no council referrals this evening. We move on to reports. Any discussion on the reports this evening? Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. So I submitted some questions, and thank you to City Management, and I thank you for responding. Just want to make sure I understand with the Michigan Green Community Challenge. So it opens this December 2023. It runs into 2024. So are we going to submit then in the first part of 2024? Or wait till so it will also reopen again in December 2024. So that's where I got confused. When we're saying we're going to do it in 2024, does that mean coming up, or is that like waiting another year until December 2024?
It's to do it in the next window. So the way it happened last year was it opened in December 2022 for actions that had been taken in 2022, and then that window was open into the spring. So when this window opens, this will be our first time participating, so we actually get to include all the actions taken to date, not just in the last calendar year. So our internal sustainability team has done the work to identify, the action items from last year's challenge, so that we're ready to go once this window opens. So yeah, it's November 20th now, so I anticipate in about a month the window will be open and we'll be participating at that point.
Okay, excellent. And glad to see that everyone from the internal committee is seeing that they've launched a sustainability plan template. I know we have resources to work with a consultant that, in speaking with them at convention, I spoke with Danielle, who's the head of who works with the league, the head of Michigan Green Communities. And she seemed to think of city of our size that we might need something a little more sophisticated than what they're offering, but it's meant to be a great starting point. And I know we're going to wait till December 1st when the community block grant opens, and you'll share more about what we're doing with that. And pursuing a consultant and we'll work on that, so, thank you.
Sorry, had water. Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain. Craig, Councilmember Hamilton?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to touch on sustainability in, 12 days is our city advance. We're going to talk about it in comments, but I guess I'll talk about it now, which is like our annual strategy meeting of sorts. And it'll be on a Saturday. Fortunately, before the Michigan goes to the Big Ten Championship, right, Councilmember Gunn? So I know Councilmember Gunn's a big Michigan fan, so I'll talk about that later when we talk in comments. But at that meeting, one of the major topics we'll talk about is sustainability. And so I look forward to that discussion. I'll save my comments for that because it's going to be a important topic that day, and I look forward to it. For the city election recap, I just want to thank Clerk Dixon for another very smooth election. I know the results took a little while due to the county, so we need Ann to advocate at the county to fix whatever issues they had. But it was another successful election, especially with the 9 days of early voting, which I think my wife did, and she said it was really smooth and great. And she said there were more city people there than people voting, but that'll change in the future soon as more people get used to it. So it's great to hear that.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamilton. Any other comments on the reports? Just there's some good comments in the report on the master plan and where we stand with that. That's been a long time process, and it's nice to see that moving forward. Looking forward to having that public hearing will be at Planning Commission.
Yes. And then it will be, the recommendation will come to city council.
Okay. Also, a nice letter of appreciation to DPW staff from Kathy Grube. That was a nice note in there as well. So that concludes comments on reports. Next up are council comments. Councilmember Hamilton.
I want to start by welcoming Councilmember Gunn to City Council. It's nice. I know the election process is exhausting. It takes a few days to recover, and now we get to the hard but much more joyful part of serving the city. Thank you for your service to our country, and what I also like about you is that you're a huge Michigan fan, and I think, and I've attended Michigan, me and my wife went to the Penn State game last week, so I think, don't you have a relative on the team or something I saw
My
on social
nephew's the kicker on the team.
Oh, good. Which one?
Tommy Doman.
Oh, he's good. Awesome. He's solid. Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I love it. So go blue.
That's right. It's kind of
Ohio, yeah.
Kind of why I question the Ohio bid, but.
I understood. I respect it. Yeah.
Now council comments. Additional council comments? Councilmember Brooks.
I would also like to congratulate and welcome Councilmember Gunn.
Thank you.
I look forward to working with you. I know that we will be collaborative and work well together, just as we have in the past. So I think we'll do a lot of great things for our city. Also, congratulations to Mayor Baker. You had a very challenging election. But no, you're doing a wonderful job, and so I'm glad that you're going to be here for another 4 years. And then I would also just like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving that's coming up this week, which I cannot believe. And also just encourage people to consider getting vaccinated as well. Because during the holidays when we gather, some of these viruses do spike. People are still getting sick. I have gotten vaccinated, so just consider keeping you and your family safe. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brooks. Dr. Brooks, I should say.
Right now.
Additional council comments? Mayor Pro Tem Oderick.
Welcome, Councilman Gunn.
Thank you.
I've known you for a while now.
You have. Yes, you have.
And I know that we will work well together on council and that it will be a good collaborative with various ideas and perspectives brought to the table, and that's the way it's supposed to work. So welcome. I look forward to working with you. I'm married to a Wolverine, but go green. Go green, go green. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. And I wanted to note that our police department on the social media last week was noting the efforts to the special event that they attended for Mothers Against Drunk Driving and getting the word out about, it's a season, right? This is the season. The Wednesday night before Thanksgiving is a big night when college kids come home and see one another. Let's just remind ourselves, and I appreciate the reminder from our police department. If you need to, make a call, stay where you are, don't drink and drive. It was a very special social media post and a very good reminder for all of us. Thank you.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig.
So Councilmember Gunn, I've shared this with you one-on-one, but congratulations. I look
you.
forward to working with you, and something that we've shared is that, we may think differently, but we work as a team in many ways. So I look forward to us being a team together.
thank you very much.
Very much. Two other quick things is, of course, happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and stay safe. The other thing is with Ann's departure, she was the lead, if you want to call it, appointment from council to serve on SEMCOG's Healthy Climate Task Force. So an invitation had come to me. I was like, time for it, give it to Ann, and shared it with some others. Ann jumped on it, had flexibility to do it. I was the backup, but meanwhile, I got a new job. And so if there's someone else who is interested in serving on that, I believe it's once a month on a Monday down in Detroit at SEMCOG's office. I would encourage someone to just, in the coming weeks, think about that.
I could be interested. Let me check the timing, what the needs would be. I could consider it. If I also forgot, congrats, Mayor, on your reelection, and Councilmember Brooks too. Sorry, I wanted to finish that too. I forgot to finish that as well. Yeah.
I forgot last week.
Yeah, we did this last week, guys. Don't forget, we did do this last week, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, I would just like to
Or
thank
forgotten.
everybody for their well wishes. Thank you, Dr. Brooks, for your comments and your reelection, and Ethan, and I look forward to working with the city residents, solving problems that come up. I definitely support our police and fire, and I look forward to working with you guys. The work ethic will be there, so you'll see it.
Very good. I'll say a couple. I feel like in another night I'd have more things to say about the election, especially. But I of course want to congratulate Councilmember Brooks on her reelection, and welcome Councilmember Gunn and congratulate him on his election. I've known Mark for about 10 years, and it's good to see you.
Thank you.
To do it. I know it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot, and I know your wife is very thankful that this is the time, and
I know,
we
she
appreciate it.
talked to your
And if she was here earlier, but I know she just had surgery, and it was nice to see her make it. I'm glad. I hope she's feeling okay. This election, obviously, we're kind of still dealing with it. We didn't necessarily know we were going to, but I just want to thank everybody for on council for all the work we've done over the past 4 years. I look forward to the work we've got moving forward. There's obviously a lot of it. I feel like a lot of what has happened over this past 4 years was colored or affected by COVID, obviously. And so we have a lot of core things that we need to continue to focus on, and hopefully we can do it without the shadow of a global pandemic hanging over us. And I'm really thankful, obviously, to Bethany for supporting me, and she's, for the past 8 years, I've been here at this table in some way or another, and she's been here a lot of the times too. I don't know. So it's nice. It's nice that the kids don't need babysitters anymore. They've grown, so we're saving a little money there. But yeah, they've grown as well. But honey, obviously, thank you for everything. And I've said it a lot of times in other addresses, but people have a favorite baker, and it's not me. So, but I'm glad to have you here. And to the council members that I serve with and city staff, all of you, we do work well together. And I think coming out of the era that we came out of, that is really important for this city. And if we continue with that plan and that ethic, we will continue to thrive in this city. And I'll do everything I can as the mayor to help put Troy in a good light and to keep us moving forward, and to also respect and honor the history of this city and the residents who've been here and who have given so much to make the city what it is. I think we have to look at everybody and remember that we represent a lot of different people with a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different focuses in the city. So we've got a big agenda coming up at our advance. It's our strategy session. Looking forward to seeing how that plays out. And obviously we don't make decisions at that strategy session, but it will guide how we look to budget for the following year, and we'll have an opportunity to vote on things as they come before us in 2024. And we'll have a lot of changes coming up next year, and there's going to be a new council, a couple new members, which will add to that whole process. So brass tack stuff, happy Thanksgiving. I don't believe Thanksgiving's this week. I'm kind of in denial about that, but I do wish everybody happy Thanksgiving, and I really, Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick, I've often said this, or one of us have bounced around it, but it is such a dangerous time on the roads. Sometimes families bring out the worst in people too when it comes to drinking, and please just don't drink and drive. There's too much to risk, and our city needs to keep our streets safe, so please be responsible with that. Also, mental health plays a big role this time of year as the holidays are approaching, and I often have talked about, reach out to people that you may think need to hear from somebody. Holidays are very difficult times for people, especially if they've lost somebody this year. And there is so much going on in the world that people are struggling in general. But it seems to me holidays are pressure points for a lot of people. It doesn't just seem to me, it's probably a known fact in the mental health field. But we're a neighborly and caring community. Reach out to your neighbors and the people in this community and care for them, and your friends and family as well. Remember, you never know who may be hurting on the inside, and sometimes that text message or that quick hello can mean the world to them on that day. So don't forget that. December 1st, Friday, December 1st, 6:30 p.m., right out there in our Veterans Plaza will be our annual tree lighting ceremony. Looking forward to being there. And celebrating the official start of the Christmas holiday season here in the city of Troy. I was told, I haven't seen them yet, but the lights along Big Beaver were officially lit tonight because our policy states they light on the Monday before Thanksgiving, and I think they stay lit until the end of February. So you'll notice those as you drive by. But I'm really looking forward to working with this council and moving our city in the right direction and continue to grow on the progress we've already had. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone up here and residents of Troy as well. That concludes council comments. Public comment, nobody has signed up for items on or not on the agenda from members of the public outside of Troy. We have no closed session this evening, so we are adjourned.